I think that one cannot ignore institutions because societies are congealed in a sense in those structures, and the idea of the state having disappeared or the state not being there. Ask somebody in Sierra Leone or Liberia if what it meant to not to have a state that was functioning. You don't need a definition of the state to know that the absence of a state is, or even in Iraq today, in certain sense. So the emphasis on the state, on institutions, on law, and so is central to understand societies. I mean, there's no way of understanding. Now, to think that those are always there is not the case. I think there are situations of the rule of chaos, chaocracies, no order, no legal system, nothing, only violence of individuals for their own purposes, not even for the creation of a new man, utopian model of a society. No, it's or to eliminate the Jews because the world without Jews would be marvelous. No, there's no purpose, no goal except individuals who want to get the chickens of somebody who goes to the market. Well, that's a different phenomenon. So I think that in this respect we need to think about societies which have a structure and institutions, and societies where institutions have been eroded or destroyed, and there's a vacuum. I think that the social sciences, and this was already pointed out long ago in a sense, I don't know if it was Poincaré or somebody who said that a science that doesn't forget its founders, or so to some extent, is going to repeat the old debates. And I think that some of the enormous attention of our students to methodology in the philosophical or general theoretical sense is somewhat scholastic and doesn't lead to much further, particularly when it's not combined with any kind of real fieldwork, real knowledge of societies and real knowledge of history. It just becomes formalistic, and to some extent I think that some of the mistakes even in policy are the result of thinking in terms of actors who have no context, who live in an abstract world of their own, of rational self-interest or so, and you build a nice model, but you don't have Shiites, you don't have Sunnis, you don't have various religious leaders, you have nothing real. And I don't think that leads to a good social science.
Yeah, but they seem to introduce the analysis of public policies, for example. It's
well, I think public policies is a very important part of social science, but it's public policies of somebody who is in power, who has consolidated the control of a society to pursue one or another policy. But if you don't have power, and you cannot implement any policy, you cannot formulate any policy without experts working for you, without a bureaucracy. You cannot implement it if you don't have a field administration in the provinces and the towns. Public policy becomes a meaningless thing. It's like somebody once called me if I would be willing to work on an electoral law for the Congo. I said, well, electoral law, if you don't have the control of the... I had a friend who was a medical doctor, who, from my student days, that had been in Africa with the OMS, with the World Organization for Health, and he told me stories about how somebody got from one town to Kinshasa with a truck full of vegetables and things to the market in Kinshasa where there was nothing, and each 5 kilometers or 3 kilometers somebody came and said, you know, I don't let you have some papers and so on, had a gun, and said, well, okay, I let you go, but give me 1 chicken. And so on, and he arrived at the market with practically nothing and went back to his village and said, I don't go again to Kinshasa. If you cannot guarantee a minimum of personal security and order in a society, what sense does it make to hold elections? So in that sense, I think that we have to look at realities, facts, and I think that all my work has always been based on trying to find some of the facts about how many people voted for something, how many people were members of a party, how many people were killed, how many how government and the society was functioning. And in the past this was statistical yearbooks and it was newspapers. Today it's all that plus all the public opinion data. That's why I have done an enormous amount of public opinion research and encourage other people to do surveys. I have done surveys and interviews with elites. I have done surveys, interviews with businessmen and with politicians. And my students have done interviews with bishops in France and with intellectuals in Malaysia and who knows what means. Well, I would say that what has happened is that the number of people who are working in the social science has increased, but also somewhat more bureaucratic criteria of evaluation, the referee journals and things like that, have diminished the intellectual, so to say, sparkle or the curiosity. And then the thing is that the social scientists of the 20s and 30s had experienced the whole European crisis. There had been the whole emigration of intellectuals from particularly Germany to the United States and also from Spain to Mexico and so on. There had been an intellectual fructification by a lot of international migration of scholars. That is not happening nowadays. People are much more centered in their own academic community. And the difficulty of doing work in some parts of the world, the third world, has diminished the number of people who do field work. It's also more costly perhaps to do it. The fact is that I think that the challenge of understanding the world and asking questions about it has been reduced, curiously enough. I think there's enough to do all over the world, but I don't think that we are doing our job in that way. And I think that the emphasis on methodology is limiting the intellectual perspective of some of the... I think that people read less the good monographs. They read less the great classics. They are less aware of the wealth of intellectual heritage on which we have to build. Why do people go into politics? Particularly when it's becoming every day more unpleasant to be a politician. And how the a whole series of characteristics of the present day methods of recruitment of elites reduce the quality of elites in a sense. Incompatibilities and the need for lots of money to make campaigns, the primaries, the endless, to use an American expression, endless eating of chicken, cold chicken dinners, to the attention to all kinds of pressures and contacts and time demands, the limitations on the personal freedom and autonomy, the family being exposed to the media, everything being exposed to the media. Who wants to be a politician under such circumstances? How do we get the right kind of people into politics? I don't know. I don't think I know, and I don't think we are studying it.